What's up everybody, you're watching PhoneArena's in-depth video review of the HTC Incredible S. If you use the HTC Droid Incredible with Verizon, it's going to be quite familiar just because it shares some of the same design styles with that device, but you do see a lot of improved specs with it. For example, you have a 4-inch capacitive touchscreen, you have an 8 megapixel autofocus camera, dual LED flash, 1.3 megapixel front-facing camera so for video chat support, and it also packs the second generation 1 gigahertz Qualcomm 8255 processor, Android 2.2 Froyo with the latest version of Sense UI. So we'll check it out and see how it contends in the high-end Android space. Mainly because it has a larger display, the Incredible S is wider and longer than the Droid Incredible, but remarkably, it does retain its streamlined look at 0.46 inches thick. You could tell that it's pretty manageable in the hands, neither too large or too small. We find it very comfortable to hold. It has a minimalistic approach, as you could tell by the clean look of the display. Gone now is the optical trackpad, and it's just completely clean. It's pretty curvy, and the backside utilizes the same design as the previous model, the Droid Incredible. It has a soft touch feel to it, so it does a great job repelling dirt and debris, and solidly built all around. We're pretty happy with its looks. Even though more devices are being released with higher resolution displays, the 4-inch Super LCD display of the Incredible S is quite manageable. It has WVGA resolution, so that's 480 by 800 pixels. And as we said, there are higher resolutions out there, but with a 4-inch display like this, it does make for some crisp looking text, and we didn't have too much of a problem with clarity. It produces some really rich looking colors, as you could tell with the Super LCD display, and viewing angles are pretty good with it all around. We didn't have any problems as far as using it in outdoor conditions. One of the other interesting things about the Incredible S is that with the touch capacitive buttons here, they'll rotate accordingly here, as you could tell, as you switch from portrait to landscape, so it gives you a really nice look. They're kind of still placed towards the edge, and there are some instances when we accidentally press them. Above the display is the grill for the earpiece. It's pretty narrow. You have also a front-facing 1.3 megapixel camera right there as well. On the left edge of the phone, you have the micro USB port for charging connected to a computer. You have the thin volume rocker. It's almost flush to the surface, but luckily when you press down, it still gives you a pretty reasonable tactile response. And on the top, you have the 3.5mm headset jack, and you have also the dedicated power button. As you can tell, it's pretty much flush to the surface, but luckily there's a reasonable response when you press it down. Finally, on the back, you have the 8 megapixel autofocus camera. You have a dual LED flash. You have also a small speaker grill there for the speakerphone. Removing the back cover is real easy. You just got to pry it apart. And once you have that, you have access to the 1450 milliamp hour battery. Behind it is the SIM card slot, and you also have the micro SD card slot right there. Granted that it might not be sporting a newer dual-core processor like some of its rivals right now out in the market, the second generation 1 gigahertz Qualcomm 8255 processor with 768 megabytes of RAM gets the job done. As you can tell here in the home screen, even with the live wallpaper activated, it's not slowing down. For most basic functions like scrolling between the home screens here, it does a pretty good job. It's pretty responsive. You open up the application drawer, it does kinetic scrolling really nice, and overall, it'll accomplish most basic functions without any issues. As it stands right now, the Incredible S features the latest version of the Sense UI running on top of Android 2.2 Froyo, but luckily though, it's going to get an upgrade to Gingerbread down the road. Definitely the Sense UI is one of the more favorable customized Android experience that we have there. As you can tell, we have helicopter view, which places all the home screens into one single view. You can instantly jump between any of them at any given time. There's a lot of nice useful widgets too, like the clock one here. It shows you the time, the weather condition, and also the temperature. And there's always the abundance of different personalization aspects with it, such as the wallpapers, the skins, the different scenes. It's just nice that you have all that on there. And since that the Incredible S has the latest version of the Sense UI, you're treated to specific applications like the HTC Hub, which is a centralized area where you can download additional content, such as wallpapers, widgets, and different skins for the device itself. You also have HTC Likes, which is basically a hub also in a way that allows you to download different types of applications, and you can choose from the different types of categories at the bottom. Also, you have even the ability to control the phone with HTCSense.com with your computer. You'll be able to back up your contacts and do things like remotely wipe your handset in the event that it's stolen or lost. Additionally, the Incredible S is a very social networking friendly device thanks to the friend stream widget, which is nice just because it aggregates all your social networking content into one place. On top of that, you can even post messages to Facebook and Twitter simultaneously and even have the ability to attach a photo with it. Even now, we're still quite fond of the HTC keyboard just because it's very useful and responsive. As you can tell, it's keeping up with our pace here, and on top of that, we like that there are numbers and even punctuations directly in the main layout here. You just do it by just doing a long press to place them in there. On top of that, it might look a little bit cramped with the portrait option. With the landscape one, though, it's a lot more roomy here, and we rarely find ourselves ever hitting the wrong buttons. Naturally, you're going to find a delightful Gmail experience with the Incredible S just because it offers pretty much the same exact features found in any other Android device out there. So you have HTML emails, you'll have the ability to label them, and on top of that, you have things like threaded conversations. Email setup is quite simple, generally requires your username and password, and it'll automatically set up for you. Thanks to its fast processor and Android 2.2 Froyo, the web browsing experience on the Incredible S is pretty delightful here. It renders our site properly like a desktop. You can double tap to zoom in, and you can tell it's very responsive to the touch as we're moving around. And on top of that, you have pinch gestures to zoom in, zoom out. The other great thing about it is that it has support for Flash, so you'll be able to interact with different content. Also, thanks to the latest version of the Sense UI, we're treated to an updated music player. It has a really nice 3D effect as you're scrolling through the albums here in Portrait. Also, you get the same thing in Landscape. It's very fluid and responsive in its motion, and we definitely like its presentation. As far as the audio quality of the speaker, it's tolerable. It doesn't crackle at the loudest setting, but it's kind of missing that strong, powerful tones with it. But you do have a sound enhancer. You can do SRS enhancer, which slightly makes it a little bit better. But you have a full set of equalizer options only with the headphones connected. With its sizable 4-inch Super LCD display with WVGA resolution, the video watching experience is more than adequate here. It produces some nice colors, and the video we have here is encoded in MPEG-4 1280 by 720 resolution. It's not slowing down at all, but it moves at a nice frame rate, and there's plenty of detail with it. Even though it boasts a higher than normal 8-megapixel autofocus camera, we're not all that pleased with its output. In fact, in outdoor conditions with plenty of lighting, it produces some muddy visuals that are combined with cooler looking colors and has a tendency to look on the overexposed side. Indoors in low lighting situations, there isn't that much noise in the shots, but still kind of lacking in details. Luckily though, the dual LED flash does a good job in illuminating the scenery. Of course, you got 720p video recording with the HTC Incredible S, but much like its photo-taking abilities, we're not all that excited about it. First of all, it produces some muddy-looking visuals, very slim in details. On top of that, it shoots at the frame rate of 21 frames per second, so it kind of looks jerky at times. It doesn't offer continuous focus, but luckily you could touch anywhere on the screen to adjust its focus. And lastly, the audio recording is pretty bad. It sounds a little bit on the distorted side, somewhat muffled as well. Call quality with the Incredible S is average. On our end of the line, the earpiece produces some strong tones, made it very easy for us to hear our callers, but voices did have a hollowness to them. On the flip side, our callers did say our voice was distinct and distortion-free. When we switched to using the speakerphone, however, it produces some crackly tones with voices. Fortunately, the Incredible S seems to retain a solid connection to the network in high coverage areas. We didn't experience any drop calls or any major fluctuations in signal strength. After fully charging it, we managed to get out 8 hours of continuous talk time before requiring a recharge. Unfortunately though, that doesn't meet the manufacturer's rating of 9.5 hours of talk time. Still though, it's pretty average, especially for real-world usage. We managed to get 1 day's use out of it. And for heavy users, of course, you're going to probably want to charge it to a charging source every now and then. But for light users, you can expect a little bit more than a day's use. So even though the HTC Incredible S is a well-rounded handset, it just seems like it was released too late in the game. What we mean by that is that you see other newer handsets out there in the market that boast higher resolution displays, they have dual-core processors, and they also have micro HDMI out ports to easily share content with high-definition television sets, and those are just some features that are missing with the HTC Incredible S. This would have been a great device a few months ago, but now when compared to like the Atrix 4G, the Thunderbolt, and just the other bevy of newer handsets out there in the market, it does kind of seem like it's insufficient in different categories, but still nonetheless you're going to get a decent experience with it. So if you'd like to learn more about the HTC Incredible S for all the latest cell phone reviews, news specs, and information, you can check us out PhoneArena.com.